Well, hey everyone, once again, we want to welcome you to your Life Group Leader training video. This week we are beginning our series in 1 Timothy, where we're going to journey through this book where Paul writes to one of the people he's mentoring, Timothy, a person that he's sent on mission with the gospel of Jesus. And so if you have your Bibles with you and you have yet to read 1 Timothy chapter 1, then I want to encourage you, as always, stop this video, go spend some time with the Lord in that book, and then come back and return to this video. I also want to encourage you to watch the video from our friends at The Bible Project. They've got a really helpful video on 1 Timothy that will help you see the big picture of what Paul is doing, writing to Timothy and encouraging him while he's in Ephesus. So for this week, we're reading chapter 1, and these videos are going to be a little different because it's much less of a story as it is a letter and encouragement. And so for this week, I just want you to imagine that you're Timothy, and you have been sent to Ephesus by Paul because in Ephesus there are some false teachers. And Paul has encouraged you and challenged you to go address those false teachers, those men and apparently women who are teaching something contrary to the gospel of Jesus. And so Paul is writing this letter to Timothy while he's in Ephesus. And what he's doing is he's seeking to encourage him, he's seeking to equip him to address these false teachers and to edify and build up the church in Ephesus. And so when Paul writes to Timothy in 1 Timothy, he begins by giving Timothy a foundation for what he's doing in Ephesus. And what he's telling Timothy is that, Timothy, you can be confident in what you're doing because the people in Ephesus who are preaching these things are false teachers. And Paul gives evidence for their false teaching, and the evidence that he gives is the fruit of their teaching. It's interesting that here at the beginning, Paul doesn't address their content. Now, he eventually will address their content, but he begins with their motivation. Paul's problem with the church in Ephesus, his problem with the leaders in Ephesus, is that they are preaching and teaching a message that is shackling and enslaving the church. Shackling them and enslaving them to regulations and stipulations that are not existent in the gospel. Regulations that say you can't eat meat, or regulations that say you shouldn't marry. All of these different things. And Paul is saying the problem with these teachers is that their teaching is not coming from love, and that their teaching is not pointing others to Jesus. He begins with their motivation. He begins with the fruit. Now, he's going to address the content. The content is a problem, but the main problem, the main issue, is the motivation and the outcome of their teaching. Because the outcome of their teaching is not that others are coming to Jesus. In fact, the outcome of their teaching is most likely that others are being turned away from Jesus. And so Paul writes to Timothy and assures him that the work he's doing is good work, that he's addressing a real problem in Ephesus. And the problem is that teachers are not pointing others to Jesus. And so this week, as you read 1 Timothy chapter 1, we want you to challenge your group with this truth, because we believe that while we are not all called and equipped and skilled to formally be teachers, we believe that we are always teaching with our lives. That our lives are constantly proclaiming a message, proclaiming a truth. And so we want you to challenge your group and remind them that their life is always teaching. And ask them the question, would their life match up to Paul's requirements for good teaching? Does their life point others to Jesus? And so this week, we want you to challenge your group to do one thing this week, whether it be share the gospel, whether it be serve someone who is in need, to do one thing this week that will point someone else to Jesus. But that's our passage. That's Paul's encouragement to Timothy. That's his challenge for us. We want to be good teachers this week. We want to point others to Jesus. We hope you have a great group. We are praying for you, and we will see you soon.